In the midst of a hurricane, Iruma works on a tuna ship, facing danger and risk due to his parents' lack of support. He becomes an expert at dodging missiles and falling things, but eventually faces a towering figure who brands him with a sold sign. He is transported to the Netherworld, where he meets Lord Sullivan, who casts a spell enabling Iruma to comprehend demon language. Lord Sullivan reveals that Iruma's parents have sold his soul to him, and Iruma is taken aback when he unexpectedly asks him to be his grandson. Lord Sullivan gives Iruma everything he could ever want, including clothes and a room, and announces that he will register Iruma at a demon school. He threatens to devour Iruma if he allows his classmates to find out that he is human. Lord Sullivan is criticized by Opera for acting too rashly on his whims, but they eventually understand. On the way to school, Lord Sullivan snaps a picture with Iruma, showing off his unwavering devotion to him. Asmodeus Alice, the new student representative, is called to the platform and is well liked by the female pupils. Iruma takes his place in uttering the greeting, but Lord Sullivan eagerly boasts about him. Lord Sullivan prepares a greeting for Iruma to read aloud, which could have meant Iruma's instant death if cast incorrectly. Iruma takes Asmodeus's place in uttering the greeting, and he issues Iruma a challenge to a courtyard duel. Asmodeus is an expert at casting fire spells, but Iruma's defense is the overwhelming crisis evasion capability. To Iruma's dismay, everything he does is seen as him behaving as though he is better than Asmodeus. Iruma parries and deflects Asmodeus's strike, preventing him from harming herself. Asmodeus launches his strike toward Aiko, but Iruma accidentally grapples Asmodeus into a German suplex out of concern for anyone's safety. The school newspaper retells their combat, teasing Iruma's final maneuver. With great satisfaction, Lord Sullivan expects no less from his grandson. Iruma feels bad about what he did and how he humiliated Asmodeus. After that, Asmodeus swears allegiance to Iruma, declaring that it is demonic law for the defeated to serve the victor. Asmodeus continues, saying that Iruma carried him to the infirmary and requesting his first commands regarding whom to kill. As a teacher who upholds social norms, Caligo compares Iruma to his grandfather's egotistical actions. This is a trait he himself received from his grandfather, and now finds repugnant given his own attention-seeking and self-centered nature. Iruma has always been praised as a child for being so easygoing and obedient. More often than not, those around him would abuse that aspect of him. Even so, Iruma can't fathom the logic behind his parents selling him off to a demon. Iruma has an incredible appetite, with the mindset that he should eat while he can, or he might go hungry due to how he has survived up until now. Over breakfast, Iruma attempts to work up the courage to address his reluctance to attend babbles. However, that confidence is quickly subdued by Lord Sullivan, who reveals the mass amount of supplies and gifts he splurged on for Iruma. Iruma is unable to deny him like this. Sullivan even went to the extent of hand embroidering a handkerchief for Iruma. Everyone is excited about the familiar summoning ritual ahead of them. Shortly after entering the gates, Asmodeus cheerfully greets Iruma, stating that he has been waiting for her for over 6 hours and 6 minutes. Iruma immediately tells him there is no need for that, dumbfounded by the dedication demons have to those they serve. Asmodeus brushes off the scolding and asks Iruma to call him Az from now on. Az then explains what they will be doing today. There are 163 new students that will be divided into groups as they prepare for classes to begin. Today in particular will be summoning familiars, and depending on the student, what they will summon will say a lot about their capability as a demon. Caligo enters the room and renders the mass of students silent instantly. Despite claiming to be dignified at all times, he makes no hesitation to single out Iruma and Sabnak. He openly insinuates that they are trash he wishes to eliminate through this summoning ritual. He declares he will expel all failures. He holds up a cute frame that begins to give a demonstration of how a summoning works, but smashes it down before it can finish. It was shown long enough that students understood the gist of summoning a familiar. They are to draw a circle of blood over a parchment pentagram and hold it over a flame that stands in the center of a larger pentagram. He offers the students a parchment with his seal on it to summon their familiars. Az happily offers to challenge Caligo for his animosity toward Iruma, but Iruma quickly tells him not to. Upon Az's turn to summon his familiar, a gorgon snake emerges from the flames and grandly wraps itself around him. Iruma congratulates him on such an amazing familiarity, but Az brushes it off, saying that Iruma's will be far greater. Iruma is up next. He doesn't have high expectations for who will answer his summons, as he is mortal without magical capabilities. Iruma tries a summoning, but as he has no demonic power in his blood, the familiar summoning accidentally becomes a demon summoning using the power of Nabrius' demonic seal, causing Caligo to be summoned as Iruma's familiar in the embarrassing form of a small, cute, fluffy owl with bat wings and horns. Despite it being an accident, the other students assume Iruma must be even more powerful than Caligo to be able to bind him as a familiar, thus increasing Iruma's fame even more. Sullivan happily informs them that familiar summoning contracts are unbreakable and last an entire year. Caligo becomes bedridden from shock, and Iruma's rank is left undetermined. Iruma meets a hyperactive student named Valak Clara, whom Asmodeus warns Iruma not to speak to. But when a teacher entrusts them with her care, they find themselves reluctantly agreeing to play with her. Clara, eccentric and overflowing with energy, bombards them with an array of items, from dangerous to adorable, inviting them into her whimsical world. Despite Az's reservations, Iruma is unable to refuse Clara's polite request to play, driven by his inability to decline anyone's plea. As the trio engages in playful antics, Iruma discovers Clara's unique ability to materialize objects she's seen before. However, their light-hearted play is interrupted by the arrival of 3 students who exploit Clara's generosity while mocking her behind her back. Undeterred, Clara eagerly asks Iruma and Az to play with her again in the future, to which Iruma readily agrees. The following day, the trio reunites for another round of play, with Clara and Az forming an unexpected bond. However, Iruma becomes increasingly uncomfortable with Clara's excessive gifting, realizing her fear of being abandoned if she doesn't provide constant entertainment. Clara overhears the disparaging comments made by the students who use her, reinforcing her insecurities. In a desperate attempt to retain their friendship, Clara showers Iruma with even more gifts, only to be met with his sincere rejection. Overwhelmed by fear of rejection, Clara confesses her feelings of inadequacy, explaining that she offers gifts to compensate for her perceived nuisance. To her astonishment, Iruma reassures her that he enjoys her company regardless of the gifts, marking the first time someone has genuinely asked her to play. As Clara revels in the newfound acceptance, the mocking students reappear, demanding more favors. Clara confronts them, ensuring they won't bother her again. Despite his scraped appearance, Az brushes off any acknowledgement of his actions, while Clara, ever enthusiastic, invites Iruma to join her in a paint fight, sealing their bond forged through genuine friendship. Clara and Az begin waiting for Iruma outside his home to walk to school together. Lord Sullivan praises Iruma for making friends, although Iruma hesitates to label them as such. In the cafeteria, Iruma learns about the rank-based meal system and relies on Az's guidance for selecting food. Other students overwhelm Iruma's table with food orders, mistaking them for samples prepared by Az. Caligo enters the cafeteria, but is deterred from confronting Iruma by Clara's exuberant introduction. Despite Caligo's disdain, Clara playfully nicknames him Eggy-sensei and prompts Iruma to summon Caligo as his familiar, leading to chaos and a debt left unpaid by the trio. The next day, while sharing ice cream, Iruma tentatively asks if he can call Clara and Az his friends, a term unfamiliar to demons. Excitedly embracing the concept, Clara and Az compete for the title of Iruma's best friend, making Iruma feel like he belongs at Babel's. In a surprising turn, Lord Sullivan arranges for Clara, Az, and Iruma to be in the same class, albeit in a class meant for delinquents, to accommodate Iruma's desire to avoid standing out. Today, classes are assigned to students. Iruma is anxious about being placed in a class full of troublemakers, but Az says as long as they're together, they should be fine. Clara, Az, and Iruma have a hard time finding their classroom, but a golden arrow leads them down past the trash dump underground to the classroom. It is separate from the rest of the school. As they enter, a tripwire is activated, and weapons come hurtling at Iruma. His classmates had set up a trap to place bets on how many weapons would hit him. They say he is the first to dodge all of them, and prior, someone had caught all of them. That someone is Sabnok Sabro. Sabnok towers over the trio, claiming he would never do something as cowardly as dodging the weapons. He merely flexes to expel the blades sheathed in his arms and body unharmed. He doesn't hesitate to include his aims of becoming Demon King and obtaining status as a Yomama. Iruma struggles to follow Sabro's unique and overly formal language. He explains the demon ranking system to Iruma, which falls in descending order with Yod at the top, Tet, Het, Zayin, Wa, He, Dalet, Gimel, Bet, and finally Aleph. Asmodeus places himself between Sabkok and Iruma to direct Sabnok's hostility to himself. Sabnok claims that the Kelbi he summoned is better than Az's Gorgon snake because it has more legs. Sabnok shirks Az off, calling him Iruma's slave and unworthy of being his rival. Az denies him, declaring he is Iruma's friend and not his slave. Iruma gradually gets flustered as Az makes a scene explaining what friends are to the whole class. Caligo enters, demanding everyone be silenced. He had been placed in charge of the Misfit class due to the incident the day prior in the cafeteria. He declares that they will be heading outside for a game of capture, the flag or race of sorts that will determine the rank they will get as demons. He explains the paths available for the students to use. Warbling Valley and Cutthroat Valley are two variations that have rather self-explanatory names. Students are advised not to use Cutthroat Valley, but inevitably, those hungry for power like Sabro use it. Caligo warns that Cutthroat Valley is not available to use as its guardian has neglected to let anyone pass through it. Iruma's peers set off instantly with their wings. Caligo pushes him off the promontory, telling him to hurry up. Clara rides on Az's back to the finish. Sabnok comes across the guardian's nest and takes him on in battle, while Iruma was saved by a demon crow. The demon crow drops Iruma off at the nest, where the guardian's child remains alone and wounded. Iruma offers to help it, and coincidentally, he heals it with his own blood. Sabnok wants to be the Demon King, not because of his terrible background, but because it's the coolest thing a demon can be. The guardian's child transports Iruma to the guardian and Sabnok's battleground. Iruma saves Sabnok by convincing the guardian that its infant is safe, and that Sabnok and him do not mean any harm. Sabnok then believes Iruma is worthy of being a rival. Az and Clara arrive first with the flag, while Iruma and Sabnok come last on the Cutthroat Valley Guardian. Those who came in last are forced to sit and repent for their actions. Although befriending the Guardian is an incredible feat, Caligo is unconcerned. Students select pins from the rank owl's pocket that represent their rank based on their success in this trial. Az pulls Dalet, while Clara pulls Gimel. Sabnok takes the bet, but Iruma causes the rank owl to flee, screeching in anguish. He is stuck with a ring without rank that craves magical power. Sabnok recalls the demon monarch's prophecy, which states that the next monarch will be from another realm, making all demons his underlings, healing them, and wielding the golden ring of Solomon on his right hand. The ring on Iruma's hand creates a sentient black flame that attacks everyone nearby, sapping their magical power. Iruma and Clara try to calm the creature by coddling it. Before Caligo can amputate Iruma's arm, Lord Sullivan steps in and offers the ring part of his power. Lord Sullivan says that it is known as a gluttonous feeder ring. Iruma is later classified as an Aleph. Iruma has made quite a noise since attending Babils. He is oblivious of the suspicions being leveled against him by Amory, the student council president. Lord Sullivan drives Iruma to school. Opera pulls out a carpet for him to exit, much to Iruma's displeasure about standing out. It won't be long before Clara and Az compete for his attention. Lord Sullivan hands Iruma a hellphone before departing. Today is the first day of classes with different teachers. The botany tower employs magic to cultivate plants. Stola's Susie illustrates this with the spell Quan Quan and visits each student to check on their progress. The student council visits the tower to keep an eye on the underclassmen. Sabnok and Az argue about their flowers. Clara's flower was nothing short of horrific. Iruma apologizes to his flower for not being able to help it grow. After saying the incantation, Lord Sullivan calls Iruma on his hellphone and informs him that he failed to explain that he can now use magic with the feeder ring, but must wait for him to add an output control to it. A giant sakura tree emerges from the pot, engulfing the entire tower. No one in the underworld has seen such a plant, but Amory knows it as being from the human realm. Most demons are unaware that humans exist. Amory comes from a family that studies and collects data about humans. Her workplace contains a collection of shoujo manga, but she cannot read any of them. She thinks human objects to be priceless. Demons do not have the same perception of relationships and culture as humans. Therefore, she finds the sentimental manga artwork to be frighteningly appealing and possess inexplicable abilities, causing her to blush when she looks through it. She wonders if humans have the ability to make others fall in love with them in ways that are impossible to resist. When Iruma meets Amory, he is cleaning up the mess left by his sakura tree. The manga she was reading dropped from her pocket and fell to the ground. Iruma recognizes the book Amory has dropped and begins to brag about how much he enjoyed this series and even helped work on it. This confirms Amory's suspicions, but she is too romantic to act on them. Rather than immediately condemning him, she is more impressed by his ability to read the book. Amory has Iruma read the books to her at her office from then onward. Amory provides Iruma her phone number so they can stay in touch and read the manga together in the future. Before Iruma leaves for school the following day, Opera asks him if he wants to return to the human realm. Iruma realizes he's been so focused on what everyone else wants that he's not sure he wants to return. Opera instructs him that if he becomes a high-ranking demon, he will be permitted to return to the human realm. Amory tries to use human customs from the manga to request Iruma's return visit, but she finds it awkward. As Clara and Az join Iruma for lunch, Amory beckons him for a conversation, but mistakenly makes it a date with her council colleagues. Clara and Az are both envious and intrigued about where Iruma keeps rushing off to. They follow Iruma in secret. They are shocked to learn that he has been seeing Amory. Clara alleges that Amory is attempting to steal Iruma, while Az concludes that Amory is Iruma's greatest impediment to controlling Babbles. Amory and Iruma discuss their objectives. Amory expresses her desire for Babbles to be the best it can be for its pupils, but becomes overwhelmed and inquires about Iruma's experience. Iruma realizes he has never had a true ambition, and like other demons, he needs one. Asmodeus seeks to prevent Clara from jeopardizing Iruma's ambitions to take over the school. Iruma is unable to come up with a dream, but Amory suggests that he boost his rank as a temporary aim. Clara enters the room to get Iruma, believing Amory was attempting to kidnap him. Clara grows increasingly envious as Iruma spends more time with Amory, so Sabnok advises that she seduce Iruma with her feminine wiles. Clara, who lacks feminine wiles, enrolls in the seduction class to study sexiness, but Raim, the succubus teacher, believes she is just 2% sexiness, making her appear impossibly innocent. Clara tries seduction techniques on Iruma, but he thinks she is playing games. Clara gets despondent but recovers once her mother kisses her forehead. The next day, Clara tries to perform a kiss attack, but Iruma avoids it with his superhuman dodging abilities, and Clara ends up being detained by Caligo. Clara admits she has zero sex appeal and resigns herself to losing Iruma, until Iruma innocently reveals he does think of her as a girl, restoring her confidence enough to declare she will make Iruma fall for her. Iruma feels an unusual thump in his heart as she pulls him along, holding his hand. Raim happily observes that Clara's sexiness has risen to 10%. Iruma decides to get serious about raising his rank from Aleph, first, to Bet, second. Az is overwhelmed with joy when Iruma decides to aim for a higher rank. Aiko worries about what she'll do if Iruma rises in rank, as she admires him from afar. Az leads Iruma to the gym. He informs Iruma of the periodic rank exams, and they are the quickest way to climb rank when excelled at. The next exam is Execution Cannonball, hence its violent and possibly lethal nature. It has been tamed for school testing as a game similar to Dodgeball. They train with cursed puppets to form proper teams. Sabnok and the rest of the abnormal class enter the gym to play too. After seeing the tremendous amount of magic used by his classmates, Iruma realizes that practice won't make perfect and that he needs actual training. Az recommends training with Lord Sullivan. Lord Sullivan teaches Iruma a spell that enables him to throw objects with ballistic force. Iruma informs Lord Sullivan that he feels like using his magic is cheating, so Lord Sullivan places a spell on Iruma's hands to strengthen them for catching a ball thrown by a demon. Opera trains Iruma instead. Opera is ruthless, but Iruma learns he can't just evade projectiles and must at least be able to catch them. Az and Clara arrive the next day to cheer him on during training. Iruma improves rapidly, despite having yet to catch a ball. The day before the exam, Iruma finally catches one ball. The day of the exam arrives. Caligo explains that their ranks will be increased based on the opponents they defeat, but only if they are on the winning team. Asmodeus is assigned to a different team from Iruma, but decides to help him. The exam is instant chaos as Iruma's classmates use their powers, while Clara floods the court with multiple balls. Iruma manages to catch the real ball, only to realize he never learned how to throw it. Sabnok, irritated that Asmodeus appears to be daydreaming, tries to strike him, but Asmodeus stops the ball and strikes Sabnok out instead. Asmodeus continues to strike players out without thinking, until only he and Iruma remain. Asmodeus is put in a tight spot. If he lets Iruma win, he would be helping Iruma gain rank, but also undermining all his hard work. After a moment of hesitation, he decides to throw with his whole power. Amory arrives to watch the exam for herself. Iruma overcomes his fear and catches the powerful throw, but as he cannot stop it, he instead spins in a circle to redirect the ball's momentum back at Asmodeus, who is struck out by his own power. Caligo, impressed by Iruma's tactic, promotes his rank to second. Amory congratulates Iruma on finally gaining ambition. Iruma thanks Opera for all his training, upsetting an emotional Sullivan who realizes he did very little to help Iruma at all. Thank you for watching. I only cover 1 to 10 episodes. If you want to continue this anime, the anime name is in the description box.